You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome back to The Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the May 4th show. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
We are here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to our rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that we have on the show. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio right now, we have Dee Gupta of Dee Coaching, Vulnerability in Relationships. Dee, thank you so much for joining us back in studio.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
And a little bit about Dee. Most life coaches help you with performance, all the matrix of what is successful on a day-to-day basis. What this approach leads to is stress and burnout. There is more to life than constantly meeting key performance indicators. Dee developed a unique coaching methodology called the Zero Productivity Method, which has a fundamentally opposite aim of the conventional life coach method. If you are the type of person who would love to live a zero productivity lifestyle and at the same time understands that there is zero practical get-rich-quick scheme and that you're prepared to define and go after the zero productivity lifestyle of your dreams and realize ruthless coaching will help you through the journey to get there. That's why we have Dee in studio.
Yeah, Dee, it's exciting. You bring a whole new bag of tricks every time you come out here. We're talking about vulnerability in relationships today, which is a whole bunch of more good information that we could all use. So tell us a little bit about your definition of vulnerability.
Sure. So human beings, the minds and the lizard brains of human beings are driven by the need to look good. Our instincts tell us that if we don't look our very best to everyone all the time, every single moment, then our survival is at stake. Our instincts direct us to hide our true selves from the world because we fear being judged by others or being considered not good enough. Our lizard brains think that if we're judged by others, they will not like us. And if they don't like us, then if there is a lion that's coming in or something that needs to be told to us, they will not help us, they will not protect us, and we will be unsafe. Vulnerability is going against that lizard brain instinct and making the decision to speak about things that scare us and make us look less than the very best or make us look real.
Yeah, and just like anything else, if you're going to create a different habit for yourself, you've got to practice and give it time to retrain in how you're going to react to something, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's talk about who benefits from being vulnerable.
Okay, any human being who has the desire to have any kind of relationship with any other human being will benefit from it.
Wow, that's exciting news. So pretty much everybody.
If you want to have a good relationship with your significant other, friend, parent, family member, colleague, anyone, then yes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The lizard brain, that's about keeping us safe, right? Like when we were cavemen running from animals. So it's no matter, it doesn't translate very well in the world that we're in, but it's still very prevalent. That's, when you go out and about and, don't do that. It's just your lizard brain saying, no, you're going to die.
Exactly.
Right?
And there is still a little bit of place, like if we want to put our hands on fire, then the lizard brain kicks in. And so it still has some value somewhere, but not nearly to the extent that it's prevalent.
So interesting. So why is vulnerability so important?
Vulnerability allows us to expose our inner secrets to someone else and therefore prevents us from putting on a mask. Every single occasion where we tell the truth or tell people things that we might be otherwise afraid of, we are free and we are mentally and emotionally stronger. It may feel like we're losing face at the moment, but in effect, we're actually connecting to the insecurities of everyone else who feels the same way, and therefore we're building real connections, and they might open up, and we're exposing our inner selves to others, they're exposing their inner selves to us, and it is much more likely that they will like us rather than not like us.
Yeah, and you would have been perfect last week because I have to brought it up was right after my experience with a recent gala I went to with nonprofit organization Mama's Hands on the House of Hope that I do a lot of work with the transitional women, and shared my story 5 years ago of the first time that I was vulnerable publicly with other people. And not only does it help you to create a whole different space for yourself and how you present yourself in that authentic space, but it opens up the space for others to be vulnerable as well so that they can share their vulnerability, and it creates that realness for everybody in a relationship. So I love this this topic. So give another example of vulnerability, Dee.
I will give an example of something that happened today. So I started a job yesterday, and I needed to come here today to speak to at this radio show. So I needed 2 hours off. And my first instinct was to do what I usually do, is just say, I have an appointment. Would it be okay if I left for 2 hours? And that is what I usually do. I don't give reasons. For a moment, I actually even thought of lying and saying that I have a doctor's appointment, because who can argue with that? Like, if you have a doctor's appointment, you have to go. And instead, I decided to tell him the truth and tell him that I do this every month, and it's a 2-hour thing, and would it be okay if I went? And he was okay. And he didn't turn out to be extremely happy about it, or so I thought. I don't know. The mind is a horrible predictor. So he may have actually been more okay than I thought. But because I was so scared and I was probably projecting, he seemed okay. But now I know that he knows what the truth is, and he knows that I'll do this every month. And more than likely, this is going to create a good relationship between us, because he's going to know that I speak here, and he's going to ask about it, and we're going to have a much more real relationship from now. So that
reminds me of what I'm trying to teach my daughter. Like, the truth is always the best way. And mom said it's okay for her to have gum. I don't know about 3-year-olds and gum. I don't know. That's seems not okay to me.
Mom. What mom says, it's good.
Yeah, she's like, oh, she's good. And I was like, she's gonna swallow it, right? And then we've heard it's never gonna digest. And so she sure enough swallows it. And I was like, London, did you swallow the gum? No, Daddy, no. And I was like, where did it go? And she gets this big grin on her face. So I'm trying to instill honesty. It always is the best policy. It's not working so far. She's 3, but I'm trying hard.
Just to let you know, I swallowed gum for years and years and years.
Look how you turned out,
Exactly,
Tina.
I'm fine.
Maybe that's the trick. Everybody swallow your gum, because you'll be super
I'm the healthiest
successful.
one in the batch.
Yeah. So, Dee, what is the process of vulnerability, or how do you go about being vulnerable?
The process is actually very simple. Like you said, be honest. So when you're asked a question, or when you want to, like in my case, I wanted to ask for time off, or if I wanted to say something, then being honest, and being honest in a way where vulnerability also has an element of humility. So without saying it with an ego, like, oh, I am a big shot and I have a radio show and I'm going to go there, or something like that. But just saying, would it be okay? And asking him for permission, or just having a little bit of humility along with the honesty. And at the same time, it can be quite tricky, because at the same time you want to maintain your strength and not give up your power to other people. So managing to do all of that in the same vein.
Yeah, well, it's like everything else. You need to have the balance of everything, and so being able to bring in that balance in the conversation they have. But I love that, humility and vulnerability, they really do connect together. But you have to have that balance of having the strength behind it in those conversations. So I love that. And so let's talk about becoming vulnerable and other situations that you can share.
You can be vulnerable in pretty much every situation. So this is a matter of opening your awareness of what's going on around you. So with pretty much anyone that you are, like, you can be vulnerable with everyone, right? Anyone you want to have a relationship with. I want to reiterate that for emphasis. So anytime you're having a conversation, it is possible to think about it, be aware about it, and think of it from the lens of vulnerability. Like, how do I have this conversation and be vulnerable at the same time? So if you go into any conversation with that thought in mind, then the likelihood is high that you will come up with an answer.
Yeah, and I always say, to have a close to perfect relationship, you can, because obviously there's no perfect relationship, but it's all on coming from a place of love, really loving that person, truly in honesty, coming from a place of acceptance, accepting who they are regardless. Now take for out, unless it's a dangerous situation, that's another conversation. But then the hardest one, I think, for most people is the accountability piece. Really taking accountability for how you're going to react in that second, because that reaction that you make that second is going to have a ripple effect moving forward. So it's kind of around the vulnerability space.
You're good at that, Tina. You're an expert. You often give me advice about
I
it
do.
Because sometimes, I could be hot-headed, and I've worked on that. And
you're doing very well.
Well, thank you. I've been working on it, and now you can cut me off, and I don't flip you off or yell at you.
It's never to me.
Yeah, I'm just smile and go, wow, they must be having a bad day. So anyways, speaking of vulnerability, is there such a thing as being too vulnerable? I know, especially being a guy, we're like, we got to be tough, right?
Yeah.
So is there a time in which you could be too vulnerable?
Absolutely, definitely. The person you are speaking to needs to have earned the right to your deepest stories. So being vulnerable is not about speaking your innermost secrets to every single person on the planet. Yeah. No. The trick is to identify what you have integrated and no longer have an emotional charge to. If you don't have a charge and you know that you will not be triggered, then yes, you can talk to people about it. The thing that makes it even trickier is that the more you hide and the more you're silent, it is harder to practice the vulnerability muscle. So find the solution to that is find people that you absolutely trust and share things with them, speak to them about things that scare you and that you might not normally speak with, and practice and slowly but surely reduce your emotional charge around those topics, and then you can bring those topics out to people who are a little bit less trustworthy, and then until you can actually speak about it from stage or to everyone in the world.
Yeah, and this fits so much into the space and the journey that I've been through, because you talk about your deepest secrets, and for me to be vulnerable and to let business partners know about my past, I thought they wouldn't support my business. And, so I had to go through that stepping process. But now where I'm at is, you're not going to have a conversation with somebody and share your deepest secrets. It's if somebody wants to know more about you through reading your book or coming to one of your keynotes or something to where that's an appropriate place. Dee, you're a graduate of my coaching program, and I share in week 1 through the 8-week program my story, because I want to create that vulnerability in that space we're going to spend a lot of time together as a group. And so I love that there's an appropriate place for it, and appropriate time and appropriate people. If they want to know more about you, you have the ability for them to get that information.
Yes, the extent matters.
Yes.
So you would, so you can be vulnerable in every situation with everyone.
Yes.
It's just you will be pushing your boundaries to a certain extent with people that are random strangers versus more with people who are very close to you.
Yeah, makes total sense. So any last advice, Dee, as we wrap up our conversation with you today?
I would suggest that every week, maybe pick a day, maybe Sunday or something, decide to share something with someone you trust that is difficult for you. So start off by practicing and building that vulnerability muscle, building that confidence muscle. And the more you do it regularly, the more it's going to be in your focus. And the more it's in your focus, the more you're going to achieve it. Because whatever you focus on expands.
Yeah, it's so true. I love it. Dee, thank you so much for coming in. And like Keelan said, always bringing a unique and a different spin on what you do and how you're helping people through your coaching.
Thank you very much.
Coming up next in the Money Hour, new construction nuances. Sherry Pucksky of Windermere right here on 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.